The period of Lent is a period in the Catholic Church which has 40 days spiritual journey into renewal, transformation of the church and her members. And in this 40-day period of Lent, the church calls on all of us to have a spiritual journey into ourselves, into our lives, and also to affect those around us. In this series, we'll talk about the three distinct people who are called into this spiritual journey. First, Christ faithful, which in Latin is technically called the fideles. So those of us who are Christ faithful, who are members of the church, we are called to have this spiritual journey, a 40-day spiritual journey. The second people who are also called in the church to embark on this spiritual journey is the penitents. In Latin, it is called penitentes. And the third people are the newcomers or the converts, especially those who were catechumens. They were called also to undergo this 40-day spiritual journey, which ends with the great feast of Easter. So these three people, Christ faithful, the penitents, and catechumens, are called to journey with the church, the Lord, in this 40-day spiritual journey. And our focus in this video is on the penitents. And the penitents, they have three distinct people among them. The first is the liberalitici, the second is the purificati, and the third is the sacrificati. And in these three distinct people among the penitents, we would like to take them one by one and explain how these three groups of penitents journey in the period of Lent. So the question is, who are the liberalitici? Technically, the word liberalitici means bearers of certificates. These were lapsed Christians at the time of the great persecution by Emperor Decius, who obtained certificates from pagan magistrates, either testifying that they were not Christians or they even sacrificed to the pagan gods. And you know what? These were Christians, but they bore the certificates that they were not Christians because of the great persecution. So the liberalitici are the groups of lapsed Catholics, lapsed Christians who obtained certificates just to flee from the persecution at the time. So during the spiritual journey of Lent, they are also called to renew their vows and also to make themselves available to the Lord in these 40 days. And the certificates that they obtained from pagan magistrates are called the libellui. So the liberalitici are people, Christians of course, who obtain certificates just to tell themselves and others that they are not Christians, but in actual fact they are Christians. So these are penitents, the first group of penitents that were called to journey with the church and the Lord in this 40-day period of Lent. Second group of penitents who at the time had to go and undergo this 40-day period of Lent are those who are called the sacrificati. Sacrificati because these were Christians who joined pagan cults and sacrificed to the heathen gods. They offered sacrifices on the altar of pagan gods, and hence they were also called to undergo this 40-day spiritual journey of Lent. So even at the time, in the ancient times, the sacrificati are those penitents who sacrificed to the heathen gods. They even partook in their sacrificial meals, but they were called by the church to undergo the 40-day period of Lent. Third group of penitents who were at a time called to undergo The spiritual journey of Lent are the Thurificati. Thurificati because these were lapsed Christians who threw grains of incense on the altar of pagan gods. So they were burning incense on the altar of pagan gods just because they were engrossed in the period of the time. And the church calls on these people, these penitents, to also undergo this 40-day period of Lent. So the Thurificati, they were Christians, lapsed Christians who were among the penitents at the time, who even sacrificed to the pagan gods. They did their sacrificial activities with the pagan cult, and they were called by the church to be penitent of their sins and draw themselves back to the church and to Jesus Christ. Dear friends, this 40-day period of Lent involves these three people that we were talking about. The faithful, who are the members of the church, called the Fidelis, the penitents, the Penitentes, and also the newcomers, those who were the catechumens at the time. And we talk about the penitents in this series. We have the Libellatici, the Sacrificati, and the Thurificati. And these three people, my dear friends, the question is, do you find yourself among these three groups of penitents? The Libellatici, those who obtain certificates just to tell themselves that we are not Christians and to flee from the great persecution. Some of us Christians, we can fall foul to those Libellatici people, lapsed Christians who obtained certificates just to tell others, and especially the pagan people, that they are not Christians. The Thurificati are some of us throwing grains of incense to other gods in this period of Lent. And the Sacrificati are some of us sacrificing to heathen gods, to pagan gods in this time. The church is calling on us to be careful of ourselves, have this spiritual journey of Lent. And when you imbue yourself with the spirituality of Lent, with prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, you'll be called to repentance and to renewal. May God bless us all. May God give us the opportunity to always come to Him as people who are on this spiritual journey of Lent. Thank you.